2023 proved to be one of the most interesting years in real estate, certainly as long as I've been in the business, since 2016, and possibly in a long time. Things in Buffalo and all of Western New York, generally a little different, moves a little bit slower, but we definitely saw a lot of the impact that the rest of the country saw. And as we wrap 2023 up, I wanted to highlight some of my favorite deals and deals that stood out to me. Starting with what I call the triple contingency. Some friends of mine who grew up here in Western New York had relocated down to South Carolina, are relocating back. For the first time in 2023 in a while, we saw sale contingencies, which basically pandemic to beginning of 2023 weren't even an option for a lot of people. So it was an interesting thing when they came to me and said, this is what we'd like to accomplish. We have to sell our house in South Carolina in order to purchase a house in Western New York. Great, let's tackle it. So we get working, we get looking. They actually had some family that was looking at houses for them with me. We were doing the FaceTime thing as well, completely remote. And the house we find for them is the people selling that house are relocating to Florida. So we have them moving up from South Carolina so that those sellers can move to Florida. Come to terms, sale contingent on South Carolina. Great relationship with their agent down in South Carolina. She was very helpful. It took them about 2 weeks to find a buyer for their house, but they ended up accepting also a contingent offer. So now we're stacking up dominoes, not only in a way that we hadn't seen in recent memory, but also this is one of those things where when you're selecting a real estate agent, it's not oftentimes it's not as simple as person A wants to buy person B's house. Like usually this is the largest transaction and asset of somebody's lives, and the way that the sale of it has to fit into everybody's lives is different every single time. And working with somebody that has been through these things, understands the pitfalls, and can kind of set expectations for you is everything, because things are going to change. So they put their house on the market in South Carolina. It takes about 2 weeks. The person they find to buy that house is contingent on the sale of their house in Florida. So we've now created a circle. So person, now fortunately, that person in Florida already had terms lined up with what's called an iBuyer. So they were selling their house as a cash purchase. It just actually had to close. So person in Florida wants to move to South Carolina. My friends in South Carolina want to move to Buffalo. The people in Buffalo that are selling the house to my friends in South Carolina are moving down to Florida. We are just starting December as we shoot this, and that deal is not closed yet. We have worked through almost all of the contingencies. It's just a matter of getting the closing date set. So hopefully, Ryan and Kristen, if you're watching this, hello. Hopefully that all goes nice and smooth. And we should have them up here for his start date on January 2nd. Another one that stood out to me, some clients of mine who were looking to buy a house in Amherst, Tonawanda area. About 3 months or so into their search, we were looking at everything, and they were making good offers, and it was still like spring, summertime. Things were still very competitive. They've slowed down a bit now. That said, this house on Kettering Road in Tonawanda, beautiful house, unlike anything that you normally see in Western New York. We actually happened to find out later that the sellers of that house were from California and had relocated here, and they brought a lot of that kind of modern California style to the remodel of this house on Kettering, and it was popular. When we went to go see it, a lot of agents that I know and am friends with were pulling up as we were walking away, and we're all saying hi and kind of commenting on how popular it was going to be. Beautiful house. Only one bathroom total, which was kind of on the list of don't wants for this buyer, but the rest of the house was great enough that they're like, we're going to do this thing. So I'd have to pull the offer up. I think we offered like $80,000 over the asking price on that one. It was clearly going to go pretty nutty. And he was a very well qualified buyer. We put the offer in at the deadline that evening. I'm out to dinner. I get the phone call from the listing agent. Hey, thank you for your offer. We're going to accept it. That's one of the best parts of my job, is I get to call the buyer up, especially after a relatively long search, and say, hey, I know you love this house. Congratulations. We still have some stuff to work through, but they're going to accept your offer. And it took about an hour and a half for the listing agent to call me back and say, hey, another offer came in and we're going to accept that one instead, which immediately leads to one of the worst parts of my job, when I have to call that same buyer 90 minutes later and tell them that. Is that the best business practice? No. Is it within their rights to do? Yes. if after the offer deadline and the considerations and everything, somebody else makes an offer, the listing agent has to present that. That's how that works. It was an unfortunate situation. I am happy to report, and I'm not just blowing smoke here, that they ended up getting a better house. It's in Amherst, on a very nice street in Amherst, with more than one total bathroom, and that was a crushing thing for that person. And when we found the house that they ultimately ended up with, I wasn't going to push the issue, and he actually came out and told me that he was much happier with this house than he was the fancy, prettier, but ultimately smaller and less useful house that they kind of got burned on. And yeah, that's that. So the moral story is, sometimes it's heartbreaking. Weird as it is, it almost always ends up working out better as that situation plays out than that initial hurt. Another one that stood out for me this year is I get to sell a waterfront condo. There's a big waterfront village here in Buffalo, right on the Erie Bays Marina, with quite a few condo buildings right on there. And this one was in Admiral's Walk, which is one of the older development buildings down there. Fortunately, they just redid the lobby and the common areas and stuff like that. However, with those waterfront condos, the taxes are high for the city of Buffalo. The HOA fees are pretty high. This was like almost $1,000 a month just an HOA. HOA is a separate video, but point is, these things can be a little tricky to sell, especially if they're outdated, like this one is. Usually a condo buyer is somebody who wants low maintenance. And when you talk about not only putting the money down to do the purchase and the high HOA fees that come with that, dumping another tens of thousands of dollars into something can be off-putting for people. So luckily we priced it right. It was a 2-bedroom, 2 full bath, which is what you want. What really stood out to me about this was oftentimes, and I'm actually dealing with this right now, real estate agents can be a little catty. It's a strange thing. This building had multiple units for sale within the building, and we all teamed up and we did group open houses, and we anytime we had a showing scheduled, we worked with the other agents to take everybody through all the units in the building. Truthfully, I was not the one leading that charge, not that I didn't want to, but Michelle Laurie, if you're watching this, hello, fantastic. Ellen Daly was involved in this as well, another great agent. But Michelle said, hey, I have this stuff going on too. Why don't we all work together on this? We did end up selling it for a good number. Mine was actually the first to sell of the lot. And it was very refreshing. Like I said, it can get a little competitive and catty in this world. And when different agents from different brokerages and different styles of doing things raise their hand and throw their hat in the ring and want to work together, it's good for us, it's good for the clients, it's good for the buyers, and it was a really cool thing to see. And lastly, so much fun, Tyler and his wife Summer got to buy their first house, and they closed like very early 2023. They got a great house. I'm super happy for them. But the most fun part about that is Tyler and I were out looking at houses. Summer wasn't able to make it that day, and Tyler and I were kind of like chit-chatting about other stuff while we looked at this house. And it's very it's one of the houses that you can definitely buy without a home inspection. Like, it was just a no-brainer. As long as you like it, safe to put an offer in, and that's what we did. We just kind of chucked something at it, and sure enough, they got it. And I very distinctly remember coming to the final walkthrough where Summer got to see it for the first time, praying that she didn't hate the house, because it was a little too late at that time. But they got a great house. Super happy for them. And those are my the most standout deals of the year for 2023. If you don't know by now, I'm Johnny Wagner. I'm a real estate agent in Buffalo and all of Western New York. We talk about all kinds of stuff like this on this channel, so feel free to subscribe and follow along. And if you happen to have a need for real estate in Buffalo, give me a call.